Jiwan's voice carried across every ship in the fleet. She could feel hundreds of thousands of eyes on her, most of them hostile. Humans didn't have the right to speak at moments like this. They were too young, too inexperienced, too weak to matter. But she spoke anyway. "This is Captain Jiwan Park of the Phoenix Rising. I know I don't have the authority to address you all. I know humans are the newest members of the coalition, and many of you think we have nothing valuable to contribute. You might be right, but I'm asking you to listen anyway." She paused, gathering her thoughts. On her bridge, her crew watched silently. Minho gave her an encouraging nod. Even Hieri, who usually questioned everything, stayed quiet. "The gate is testing us," Jiwan continued. "Not our technology, not our military strength. It's testing whether we can work together when something truly important is at stake. Right now we're failing. We're competing instead of cooperating. We're thinking about our own species instead of the coalition as a whole." Several ships began transmitting angry responses, but Jiwan kept talking. "Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. We're weak compared to you. Our technology is primitive. Our history is short. But we learned something important before we joined the coalition. We learned it the hard way through wars and mistakes and near extinction. We learned that survival means cooperation. That strength comes from unity, not division." Velrax's face appeared on her screen. "Captain Park, this is inappropriate. Return to your observation position and cease this transmission immediately. With respect, Counselor, no. Someone needs to say this. The gate doesn't care about which species is oldest or which empire is largest. It cares about whether we can set aside our pride and work together. Please, before it's too late." She ended the transmission. Her hands were shaking. She had just publicly challenged one of the most powerful members of the coalition. Her career was probably over. Earth's government would be furious. "That was either very brave or very stupid," Hieri said. "Maybe both," Yuan admitted. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Taijin pointed at his screen. "Captain, look. The Silith ship is moving." Ambassador Quilvin of the Silith Collective opened a channel. Her species communicated through a single voice that represented their entire hive mind. When she spoke, it was the decision of millions of connected beings. "The human captain speaks truth," Quilvin said. "We have been analyzing the gate's puzzle incorrectly. We focused on the solution rather than the method. The Forerunners designed this test to evaluate cooperation, not competition. We will work with any species willing to approach this properly." Other voices joined in. A Varaxi commander, a Kryn scientist, even some species that rarely spoke publicly. Not everyone agreed, but enough did. The tone was shifting. Over the next 3 days, a new approach took shape. Representatives from different species began actually talking to each other instead of shouting. They shared data. They listened to different perspectives. It was slow and frustrating, full of cultural misunderstandings and old resentments, but it was progress. Jiwan and her crew became unofficial mediators. When the Kryn and Varaxi couldn't agree on something, Minho would suggest a compromise. When communication broke down, Taijin would share stories about how humans from different cultures learned to work together. When tensions got too high, Hieri would step in with her no-nonsense military directness. Slowly, the gate responded. The holographic puzzle became clearer. Solutions that had seemed impossible before suddenly made sense when approached collaboratively. But not everyone was happy about this progress. Counselor Velrax watched the cooperation with growing alarm. His empire had maintained power for thousands of years by being the strongest, the most advanced, the most influential. If the gate rewarded cooperation over dominance, the entire power structure of the coalition would change. The Kryn would lose their privileged position. He couldn't allow that. Velrax began working in secret, spreading doubt and suspicion. He sent anonymous messages claiming the Silith were manipulating data. He arranged for equipment failures that looked like sabotage from other species. He planted evidence suggesting the Varaxi were planning to seize the gate by force. The fragile cooperation began to crack. "Someone is deliberately causing problems," Hieri told Jiwan one evening. They were in the captain's ready room reviewing security reports. "These incidents are too convenient. Too well-timed to be accidents. Can you prove it?" Jiwan asked. "Not yet. Whoever is doing this is smart. They're covering their tracks well." Minho entered the room, looking troubled. "The gate's energy signature is changing again. I think we're running out of time. If we don't solve the puzzle soon, it might close permanently." How long do we have? Ji-won asked. Days, maybe less. And that's only if the cooperation continues. If it breaks down completely, the gate might reject us immediately. The next morning, disaster struck. A Varaxi science vessel exploded. 43 crew members died instantly. Within hours, evidence emerged suggesting a Silith attack. The Varaxi fleet powered weapons and demanded justice. Ambassador Quilvin denied any involvement. The Silith Collective values all life. We would never commit such an act. This evidence is false, but the Varaxi didn't believe her. Their warrior culture demanded blood for blood. Other species began choosing sides. Old alliances reformed. Ships repositioned themselves into defensive formations. The coalition was about to tear itself apart. Ji-won stared at the tactical display on her bridge. Red icons everywhere representing armed and hostile vessels. One wrong move and hundreds of ships would start firing. Millions would die. The gate would close forever. Captain, we're receiving a private transmission, her communications officer said. From Taejin. He says it's urgent. Taejin's face appeared on her screen. He was in the engineering section surrounded by data displays. Captain, I found something. I was running diagnostics on our communication systems and I noticed some unusual patterns. Someone has been sending false transmissions, making them look like they came from different ships. Can you trace the source? Ji-won asked. I'm trying, but whoever is doing this is using sophisticated encryption. It's going to take time. We don't have time, Hyeri said. The Varaxi are preparing to attack. We need answers now, Ji-won thought fast. If someone was deliberately sabotaging the cooperation, they must have a motive. Who would benefit from the coalition failing this test? Who had the most to lose if the gate rewarded unity over power? The Kryn, she said suddenly. It has to be someone high up in the Kryn Empire. They've been the dominant power in the coalition for thousands of years. If cooperation becomes more important than dominance, they lose everything. Velrax, Minho whispered. It makes sense. He's been opposed to the cooperative approach from the beginning. Accusing a coalition counselor without proof is a serious offense, Hyeri warned. If you're wrong, it will destroy human credibility forever. And if I'm right but don't act, we lose everything anyway, Ji-won replied. Taejin, how long until you can trace that transmission? Give me 10 minutes. Maybe 15. Ji-won looked at the countdown timer Minho had put on the main screen. The gate's energy was becoming dangerously unstable. They had less than an hour before it collapsed entirely. Do it, she said. Everyone help him. This is our only chance. The Phoenix Rising's crew worked frantically. Taejin coordinated with Minho on analyzing the transmission patterns. Hyeri cross-referenced ship movements with the timing of each suspicious incident. Every member of the crew contributed something. On the main screen, the Varaxi fleet moved closer to the Silith vessels. Weapons were fully charged. Any second now, someone would fire the first shot. Got it, Taejin shouted. The transmissions originated from the Kryn flagship, Counselor Velrax's personal communication array. Send me everything, Ji-won ordered. Every piece of evidence, every analysis, everything. Data flooded her command console. It was all there. Proof that Velrax had orchestrated every incident, every piece of false evidence, every breakdown in cooperation. He had been willing to let the coalition destroy itself rather than accept a future where power came from unity instead of dominance. Ji-won opened a channel to every ship in the fleet. This time she wasn't asking for permission. All vessels, this is Captain Park, stand down immediately. I have proof that the recent attacks were not committed by any coalition species. They were false flag operations designed to turn us against each other. I'm transmitting the evidence now. The evidence appeared on every screen across the fleet. Communication logs, energy signatures, encrypted transmissions, all pointing to one source. Counselor Velrax had orchestrated everything. The sabotage, the false accusations, the explosion that killed 43 Varaxi crew members. For a moment, silence filled the space around the gate. Then chaos erupted. The Varaxi fleet immediately turned their weapons toward the Kryn flagship. Other species began demanding explanations. Some called for Velrax's arrest. Others wanted him executed. The Kryn vessels formed a defensive circle around their counselor's ship, refusing to surrender him. Ji-won watched the situation spiral out of control. They had stopped one war only to start another. The gate pulsed with angry red light, its energy becoming more unstable by the second. Captain, the gate's collapse is accelerating, Minho reported. We have maybe 30 minutes before it closes forever. or explodes. The energy readings are completely unpredictable now. Hieri studied the tactical display. The Varaxi are preparing to fire. If they attack the Kryn flagship, every Kryn vessel in the fleet will respond. We're looking at a full-scale battle. Then we stop them, Jiwan said. She opened a channel again, this time directing it specifically at the Varaxi commander. Commander Borix, this is Captain Park. I understand your anger. Velrax killed your people. He manipulated all of us, but attacking him now proves him right. The Varaxi commander's face appeared on screen. His species looked like walking armor, their bodies covered in thick protective plates. Explain yourself, human. Why should we not take justice for our dead? Because that's exactly what Velrax wanted, Jiwan said. He tried to make us fight each other. He wanted to prove that the coalition couldn't work together, that cooperation was a weakness. If we descend into violence now, we prove he was right. We show the gate that we're not worthy. My people demand blood for blood, Borix said. It is our way. I know, Jiwan replied. Humans have warrior cultures too. We understand honor and justice. But we also learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose peace when war would be easier. She took a deep breath. What she was about to say would either save the situation or make it worse. The Forerunners built this gate to test us. They wanted to know if we could evolve beyond our violent instincts, if we could choose cooperation over conflict, even when we've been wronged, especially when we've been wronged. That's the real test, not solving puzzles, not demonstrating technology, but showing mercy when vengeance would be justified. Borix was silent for a long moment. Then he said, Your words have wisdom, Captain Park, but they do not bring back my dead. No, Jiwan agreed. Nothing will. I'm sorry for your loss, but more death won't honor them. Proving that we're better than our worst impulses will. Another voice joined the conversation. Ambassador Quilvin of the Silith Collective. The human captain speaks truth. The Silith were also victims of Velrax's deception. We could demand justice, but justice without mercy is merely revenge. We support Captain Park's position. More species added their voices. Not all agreed, but enough did. Slowly the weapons charges powered down. Ships backed away from combat positions. The immediate crisis passed, but they still had to deal with Velrax. The Kryn flagship opened a channel. To everyone's surprise, it wasn't Velrax who appeared on screen. It was another Kryn official, someone Jiwan didn't recognize. This is Sub-Counselor Kareth. Counselor Velrax has been placed under arrest by Kryn security forces. He will face trial for his crimes. We apologize to all coalition members for his actions. They do not represent the values of the Kryn Empire. Jiwan felt some tension leave her shoulders. At least the Kryn were taking responsibility. That was something, but the gate was still collapsing. Captain, the energy signature is critical, Minho said urgently. We have less than 10 minutes. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now. The holographic puzzle still hung in space before the gate, but it had changed. The 3 sections were now visible, but they were fading. The gate was giving them one last chance. We need representatives from 3 species, Minho said, analyzing the pattern. Working together. Actually together. Not just pretending to cooperate. The gate will know the difference. I volunteer, Jiwan said immediately. As do I, Ambassador Quilvin said. The Silith will participate. Commander Borix's voice came through. The Varaxi will send a representative. We choose to trust the human captain's judgment. Within minutes, 3 shuttles launched. Jiwan piloted hers personally, with Minho and Taejin accompanying her. They met at a designated point near the gate, along with Quilvin and a Varaxi warrior named Kendra. The 5 of them floated in spacesuits before the massive gate. Up close, it was even more impressive. The symbols on its surface glowed with ancient power. The energy field in its center rippled and pulsed almost like it was breathing. The puzzle requires us to input solutions simultaneously, Minho explained, studying his instruments, but they have to be coordinated. If even one of us enters the wrong sequence or enters it at the wrong time, we fail. So we have to trust each other completely, Jiwan said. Yes, no second guessing, no hesitation. Complete trust. Quilvin's voice came through their communication channel. The Silith find trust difficult. We are many minds in one body, used to having complete information. Trusting others means accepting incomplete information. The Varaxi are warriors, Kendra added. We trust our battle brothers because we fight beside them, but we have never fought beside humans or Silith. This trust must be built on nothing but faith. Then let's build it, Jiwan said. Right here. Right now. I'm a human. My species nearly destroyed itself multiple times. We made terrible mistakes. We hurt each other and our planet. But we learned, we grew. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better. And I promise you both with everything I am that I will not let you down. Quilvin spoke next. The Silith are one mind in many bodies. We value logic and efficiency. Emotions are difficult for us to understand, but we have observed humans and admired their capacity for hope despite their flaws. We will trust you, Captain Park. Kendra's voice was gruff but sincere. The Varaxi respect strength and honor. You showed both when you stopped us from attacking the Kryn. You could have let us fight. It would have been easier. But you chose the harder path. That is true warrior spirit. We will follow your lead. Minho worked frantically on the calculations. I've got the sequences. They're complex, but if we coordinate perfectly, it should work. Jaiwan, you'll handle the physics portion. Quilvin, you take the mathematical section. Kendra, the final sequence requires precise timing. You'll need to input your code exactly 3 seconds after Quilvin finishes hers. 3 seconds, Kendra repeated. Understood. They approached the holographic interface. Jiwan could feel her heart pounding. Everything came down to this moment. Months of tension, decades of coalition politics, 50,000 years of the gate waiting for someone worthy. On my mark, Minho said. 3, 2, 1 mark. Jiwan's hands flew across the holographic controls. Complex physics equations, quantum calculations, relativistic adjustments. She had studied Forerunner technology for years. But this was beyond anything she had seen before. She had to trust that Minho's calculations were correct. Trust. That was the key to everything. Beside her, Quilvin worked with perfect precision. The Silith's mathematical abilities were legendary. Their hive mind could perform calculations that would take individual species hours to complete. Kendra waited, her warrior's discipline keeping her perfectly still. G1 could imagine how difficult this must be for her. Varaxi were creatures of action. Waiting required a different kind of strength. Quilvin finished her sequence. Complete. Kendra counted silently. 1, 2, 3. She input her code. The gate exploded with light. For a terrifying moment, G1 thought they had failed. The energy was so intense, so overwhelming that she couldn't see anything. She felt herself being scanned, analyzed, judged down to her very atoms. Then the light faded. The gate stood before them, its center no longer rippling with energy but swirling with colors that had no names. The portal had opened. We did it, Tajin whispered. The gate sent a pulse of information directly to their minds. It wasn't words exactly, more like pure understanding. The gate had judged them worthy, not because they were perfect, not because they were the strongest or smartest, but because they had demonstrated what the Forerunners valued most, the ability to work together despite their differences, the courage to trust despite their fears, the wisdom to choose cooperation over conflict. So what happens now? Kendra asked. Do we enter? G1 looked at the swirling portal. Beyond it lay the Nexus realm, unlimited knowledge, advanced technology, power beyond imagination, everything the Coalition could ever want. And suddenly she understood the final test. Captain G1 Park stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Rising, staring at the screen before her. The message had arrived 3 hours ago, and it still made no sense. Every government in the galaxy had received it. Every ship, every communication device across 47 civilizations had displayed the same words. A species approaches worthiness. The gate opens. One may enter. Choose wisely. G1 rubbed her tired eyes. She had been awake for 20 hours straight, coordinating with Coalition Command and trying to prevent a panic. The gate. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the gate. It sat in the neutral zone, a massive circular structure 3 kilometers wide, made from materials that no one could identify or reproduce. The Forerunners had built it thousands of years ago, maybe millions. No one knew for sure. What everyone did know was that the gate had been closed for 50,000 years. No species had ever opened it. Countless civilizations had tried. Some sent their best scientists. Others sent warriors. A few even tried to destroy it, thinking that if they couldn't use it, no one should. Nothing worked. The gate remained sealed, silent, waiting. Until today. Captain, we're receiving another transmission from Coalition Command. Her communications officer called out. They want us to proceed to the gate immediately. We're being assigned as neutral observers. G1 nodded. Neutral observers. That was a fancy way of saying they would watch other species fight over who got to enter first. She turned to her crew. They looked worried. Humans were the youngest species in the coalition. They had only joined 40 years ago. When older, more powerful species started competing for something this important, humans usually got pushed aside. Set course for the neutral zone, Ji-won ordered. Best speed. Dr. Min-ho Yoon appeared on the bridge a few minutes later. He was carrying 3 data tablets and looked even more exhausted than Ji-won felt. Min-ho was their expert on Forerunner technology. He had spent 15 years studying their artifacts, trying to understand why such an advanced civilization had vanished. I've analyzed the message, Min-ho said without greeting. He never bothered with social niceties when he was excited about something. The energy signature matches Forerunner patterns, but there's something different about it. The gate isn't just opening randomly. It's responding to something. Or someone. Which species? Commander Hyeri Kang asked. She was the head of security, a former Special Forces soldier who trusted very few people and liked even fewer. The Kryn? The Silith? They're the oldest members of the coalition. Min-ho shook his head. That's what's strange. The energy readings don't match any specific species. It's almost like the gate is responding to the coalition as a whole. Or maybe it's testing us. Testing for what? Ji-won asked. I don't know. But I don't think the gate cares about technology or military power. The Forerunners were beyond that. They could have conquered the galaxy if they wanted to. Instead, they just disappeared. Maybe they were looking for something else, something we haven't figured out yet. The Phoenix Rising arrived at the neutral zone 2 days later. Ji-won had never seen so many ships in one place. Hundreds of vessels from dozens of species crowded the space around the gate. Some were massive warships. Others were science vessels. A few were clearly civilian ships whose owners had come to witness history. The gate itself dominated the view. It hung in space like a giant ring, perfectly circular, made from a dark material that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with a soft blue light. The center of the ring rippled with energy, like water disturbed by a gentle breeze. It's beautiful, whispered Taijin Ro, their youngest engineer. He was only 23, fresh from the academy, full of hope about the coalition and what different species could achieve together. Ji-won envied his optimism sometimes. Captain, we're being hailed by the Kryn flagship, the communications officer reported. A face appeared on the screen, Counselor Velrax of the Kryn Empire. His species looked vaguely reptilian, with scaled skin and sharp features. The Kryn were one of the founding members of the coalition, and they never let anyone forget it. Captain Park, Velrax said. His tone was polite, but Ji-won heard the condescension underneath. I trust you will keep your vessel at a safe distance. This is a matter for senior coalition members to resolve. We're here as observers, Counselor, Ji-won replied calmly. Coalition Command sent us, of course. Observe all you like, from a distance. Velrax ended the transmission. Hyeri growled. Arrogant piece of easy, Ji-won said. We're not here to start a fight. Over the next few hours, more ships arrived. The situation grew tense. Each species claimed they deserved to enter the gate first. The Kryn argued their ancient lineage made them the obvious choice. The Silith Collective, a hive mind species, claimed their unified consciousness was what the Forerunners would have valued. The Varaxi, a warrior culture, believed strength should determine access. No one asked what humans thought. They were too busy arguing with each other. Then something changed. The gate pulsed with light, and suddenly a holographic interface appeared in space before it. Complex patterns and symbols formed in the air. Min-ho gasped. It's a puzzle, he said, frantically scanning the patterns with his instruments. The gate is presenting a challenge. Look, there are 3 distinct sections. I think it needs representatives from 3 different species to solve it together. 3 species working together? Taijin asked. That should be easy. We're in a coalition. We work together all the time, Hyeri snorted. Watch and learn, kid, she was right. Within minutes, the situation descended into chaos. The Kryn insisted on leading the effort. The Silith wanted to analyze every possibility before acting. The Varaxi treated it like a combat simulation, trying to solve it through force. Other species shouted their own solutions, each convinced they knew best. No one listened to each other. No one compromised. After 3 failed attempts, the gate's holographic interface flickered and dimmed. A low, ominous hum filled the space around them. That doesn't sound good, Tejan said quietly. Minho checked his readings. The gate's energy is becoming unstable. If they keep failing, it might close again. Or worse, it might collapse entirely. Jiwan watched the arguing ships on her screen. Decades of peace had made the coalition comfortable. They cooperated when it was convenient, when resources were abundant, when no one's pride was at stake. But now, faced with something truly important, their unity was crumbling. The gate isn't testing their intelligence, Jiwan said softly. It's testing their character. What do you mean? Minho asked. The Forerunners didn't vanish because they were weak or because they failed. They were the most advanced civilization in galactic history. They chose to leave. Or maybe they evolved beyond needing physical form. But before they did, they left this gate. Not as a reward for the strongest or the smartest. As a test, she turned to face her crew. They're testing whether we can actually work together. Not for convenience, not for profit, but because it's the right thing to do, and right now we're failing that test. Another attempt failed. The gate pulsed with angry red light. Ships began powering up weapons, each species suspicious of the others. What had started as a competition was turning into something far more dangerous. Captain, Hieri said urgently, we're detecting weapons charges across multiple vessels. If someone fires, this could turn into a war. Jiwan made a decision. Open a channel to all coalition ships. Captain, you don't have the authority, Hieri began. I know. Do it anyway. A moment later, her face appeared on every ship's communication screen. Hundreds of species. Thousands of crew members all suddenly looking at her. Jiwan took a deep breath. Humanity was about to get involved, whether the older species liked it or not. Jiwan stared at the open gate. The swirling portal beckoned, promising answers to questions that civilizations had asked for 50,000 years. All she had to do was step through, but something felt wrong. She looked at Quilvin and Kendra, floating beside her in their spacesuits. They had worked together to open the gate. 3 species setting aside their differences, trusting each other completely. That trust had been the key. But if they entered now, what happened to everyone else? The thousands of other beings watching from their ships, the billions more across the galaxy, hoping for a chance to learn from the Forerunners. Would they be left behind? Minho, Jiwan said quietly. What do your readings show? Can anyone enter the gate now or just us? Minho checked his instruments. The gate is open. Technically, anyone could enter, but the energy signature suggests it opened in response to our cooperation. We're the ones it judged worthy. So we earned this, Kendra said. We solved the puzzle. We passed the test. The gate is ours to claim. Is it? Jiwan asked. Think about what we just did. We worked together because the gate required it. But what happens after we go through? Do we become special? Different from everyone else? Do we gain knowledge and power that others don't have? Quilvin's voice held uncertainty. The Silith mind is processing your question. We do not understand. We passed the test. We deserve the reward, do we? Jiwan turned to face them both. Or did we just pass the first test? Maybe the real test is what we do now. Do we take this power for ourselves or do we share it? You speak of giving up our prize, Kendra said slowly. That goes against every instinct. We fought for this. We earned this. I know, Jiwan said. But think about why the Forerunners built this gate. They were the most advanced civilization in history. They could have kept all their knowledge and power for themselves. Instead, they left this test. They wanted to find species who valued cooperation over competition, unity over division. She gestured at the swirling portal. If we go through and come back with advanced knowledge that only we possess, we create exactly the kind of division that the Forerunners were testing against. We become the new elite, the new power structure, and everyone else gets left behind. Tejan's voice came through their communication channel from the shuttle. Captain, what are you suggesting? Jiwan took a deep breath. I'm suggesting we keep the gate open. For everyone. We don't claim it. We don't control it. We make it freely accessible to any species that wants to learn from the Forerunners. Silence filled their communication channel. Then Kendra spoke. Captain Park, the Viroxy respects strength. But there are different kinds of strength. What you propose requires more courage than any battle. To give up victory when it is in your grasp. That is the strength of legends. Quilvin added, the Silith calculate probabilities. We see the logic in your words. If we claim exclusive access, we create resentment, competition, possibly war. But if we share access freely, we strengthen the coalition. The long-term benefits outweigh the short-term loss of advantage. Then we're agreed? Jiwan asked. We are, they both said. Jiwan opened a channel to all coalition ships. Her hands were shaking. What she was about to do would change everything. Earth's government would be furious. Many coalition species would think she was a fool. But it was the right thing to do. Attention all vessels. This is Captain Jiwan Park. The gate is open. We passed the test through cooperation and trust. But we've decided not to enter. Not yet. Not until we can all enter together. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. The Forerunners left this gate as a gift to all civilizations, not just a chosen few. They wanted to test whether we could work together. We proved we could. Now we need to prove we can share equally. The gate remains open. Free access to any species. No guardians. No restrictions. This is humanity's gift to the coalition. We keep the door open for everyone. Reactions came immediately. Some praised the decision. Others called it foolish. Earth's High Command sent urgent messages demanding she reconsider. But Jiwan stood firm. Then something unexpected happened. The gate responded to her decision. It pulsed with light brighter than before and sent another wave of information across all the ships. This time everyone could understand it. Not words, but pure meaning transmitted directly to their minds. Worthiness confirmed. Final test passed. Access granted to all. Minho's excited voice filled their channel. Captain, the gate's energy signature just stabilized completely. It's not going to close. It's permanent now. You did it. By choosing to share instead of claim, you passed the real test. Over the following days, the first expeditions entered the gate. Scientists from multiple species went through together, sharing their discoveries. What they found amazed everyone. The Nexus Realm wasn't a treasure vault or a weapons factory. It was a library. A vast collection of knowledge, experience, and wisdom accumulated by the Forerunners over millions of years. Anyone could access it, but what they gained depended on what they sought. A young researcher named Sunhee Choi from a human colony world was among the first to enter. She returned changed, describing endless archives of philosophy, science, art, and culture. The Forerunners had recorded everything they learned, everything they experienced, everything they understood about existence itself. But there was a catch. The knowledge didn't come easily. You couldn't just download it into your brain. You had to earn it through study, contemplation, and growth. Those who entered seeking quick power found only lessons on patience. Those seeking weapons found only teachings on peace. The Nexus Realm gave you what you needed to grow, not what you wanted to take. Minho spent weeks inside the Nexus Realm. When he finally emerged, he had answers about the Forerunners. They hadn't vanished or died. They had simply evolved beyond the need for physical form. They had become pure consciousness, living within the Nexus Realm itself, existing as information and experience. The gate was their final gift, a test to ensure that only civilizations ready for such profound knowledge could access it. For 50,000 years, species had approached seeking power, dominance, or advantage. All had failed because they didn't understand what worthiness truly meant. Humanity, the youngest and weakest species, had passed the test by understanding something the older civilizations had forgotten. That true advancement meant lifting everyone up, not climbing over others to reach the top. But not everyone celebrated this new era. Velrax sat in a detention cell aboard a coalition prison ship, watching reports of species entering the gate freely. His plan had failed. His empire's dominance was ending. The future would be built on cooperation, not power. Yet even in defeat, part of him understood. He had been so focused on maintaining power that he forgot why power mattered in the first place. It was supposed to serve the people, not the other way around. A coalition tribunal decided his fate. Many wanted him executed. Others preferred permanent exile. But Jiwan, given a voice in the proceedings due to her role in exposing him, suggested something different. Let him serve at the gate, she proposed. Let him help new visitors understand its purpose. Let him see firsthand what cooperation achieves. Punishment should rehabilitate, not just punish. The tribunal agreed. Velrax would spend the next decade as a guide at the gate, helping others avoid the mistakes he had made. Meanwhile, the coalition itself began to transform. The easy access to Forerunner knowledge accelerated technological advancement, but more importantly, it accelerated cultural understanding. Species that had barely tolerated each other began genuinely cooperating. Research consortiums formed, mixing scientists from dozens of species. Cultural exchange programs expanded dramatically. The younger generation, people like Taijin, grew up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal, not exceptional. Jiwan found herself promoted to Coalition Chancellor, despite her protests. They needed someone who understood the new era, someone who could guide the transition from the old ways to the new. She accepted reluctantly, knowing the burden but understanding the necessity. One evening she stood alone before the gate. It had been 6 months since they opened it. 6 months of incredible change. She thought about how close they had come to disaster. How easily things could have gone wrong. Yeri joined her, standing silently beside her captain. After a moment she said, "You know Earth's government is still angry with you. They wanted exclusive access to the gate. They think you gave away humanity's greatest advantage." "I know," Jiwan replied, "but they're wrong. Our greatest advantage isn't technology or knowledge. It's our understanding that we're stronger together. That's what got us through the worst parts of our history. That's what will get us through whatever comes next." "Do you think other species understand that now?" Yeri asked. Jiwan watched as a mixed crew of scientists from 7 different species emerged from the gate, excitedly discussing their findings. "Some do, others are learning. That's all we can ask for. Progress, not perfection." The gate pulsed gently, its light reflecting off their faces. It seemed almost pleased if such a thing were possible. Perhaps the Forerunners, wherever they existed now, were watching. Perhaps they were satisfied that their test had finally been passed, not by the strongest or the oldest civilization, but by the one that understood the simple truth they had spent millions of years learning. That the best way to hold on to power is to give it away. That the strong 20 years had passed since the gate opened. Captain Jiwan Park, now retired from active service, walked through the gardens of the Coalition Memorial Park on Earth. The park honored those who had died during the gate crisis, including the 43 Varaxi crew members killed in Velrax's sabotage. She came here often to remember how close they had come to disaster. How easily the whole situation could have ended in war instead of peace. Sometimes she wondered if they had just been lucky. Other times she believed it was destiny. "Thought I'd find you here," a familiar voice said behind her. Jiwan turned to see Hyeri approaching. Her old security chief looked older now, gray at the temples, but still moved with the same confident grace. She had retired from active duty 5 years ago, and now trained the next generation of Coalition peacekeepers. "Just thinking about old times," Jiwan said. "Hard to believe it's been 20 years. "Everything's changed," Hyeri agreed, settling onto the bench beside her. "When we first joined the Coalition, humans were nobody. Now look at us. We're mediators, bridge builders, teachers. Who would have thought?" "The Forerunners did," Jiwan said quietly. "I think they knew that the youngest species would have the freshest perspective. We hadn't been in the Coalition long enough to become complacent. We still remembered what it was like to struggle, to need help, to depend on cooperation for survival." They sat in comfortable silence, watching families walk past. Children from a dozen different species played together, completely unaware of the old prejudices that had once divided their ancestors. To them, cooperation was natural. The idea of species competing against each other seemed as strange as humans fighting over skin color or what country they were born in. "Have you heard from Minho lately?" Hyeri asked. "Last week," Jiwan replied. "He's still spending most of his time in the Nexus realm. He says he's only scratched the surface of what the Forerunners recorded. He could study for 1,000 years and not learn everything." And Taijin, leading the Coalition Youth Exchange Program. He's got kids from 47 species learning together, working on projects, building friendships. He's happier than I've ever seen him. Hyeri smiled. "We did good work, didn't we? The Phoenix Rising crew. We changed the galaxy. We had help," Jiwan reminded her. "Quilvin, Kendra, even Velrax in his own way. It took all of us." "Speaking of Velrax, I heard he completed his service at the gate," Hyeri said. 10 years of helping visitors understand the Forerunners' teachings. They say he's a changed person." "I hope so," Jiwan said. "Rehabilitation only works if people actually learn from their mistakes." A young woman approached them holding a data pad. She looked nervous. "Excuse me, are you Captain Jiwan Park?" Jiwan nodded. "I am, though I'm not a captain anymore." "Just Jiwan is fine." I'm writing my thesis on the gate crisis, the young woman explained. I'm studying how humanity's decision to keep the gate open changed coalition politics. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions? Go ahead, Jiwan said. The student consulted her notes. Why did you decide not to enter the gate when you had the chance? Your species had earned that right. You could have gained an enormous advantage. Jiwan had answered this question 1,000 times over the years, but she never got tired of it. Each time she tried to explain it a little better. Because we realized that the gate wasn't testing whether we could solve puzzles or demonstrate cooperation for a reward, Jiwan said. It was testing whether we understood the difference between power and responsibility. We could have claimed exclusive access. We could have used the knowledge to make humanity the dominant species in the coalition, but that would have repeated the exact pattern that the Forerunners were trying to break. What pattern? The student asked. The pattern of one group rising above others through knowledge or power, then using that advantage to maintain dominance. The Forerunners evolved beyond that. They wanted to find a species that could do the same, not by being perfect but by choosing equality over superiority. The student made notes on her pad. But weren't you worried that some species would abuse free access to the gate? That they would use the knowledge for harmful purposes? Of course, Jiwan admitted. That fear exists whenever you share power. But the Nexus realm has its own safeguards. It gives people what they need to grow, not what they want to take. Those who enter seeking weapons find only lessons on peace. Those seeking dominance learn about service. The Forerunners designed it that way intentionally. So the gate itself prevents abuse? Not prevents, teaches. There's a difference. The gate doesn't stop you from making mistakes. It helps you learn from them. The student asked several more questions, thanked them both, and left. Yeri watched her go with a smile. Kids these days, Yeri said. They study the gate crisis like it's ancient history. To them, it's just another chapter in their textbooks. They don't remember what it was like before. The tension, the suspicion, the constant fear that the coalition might fall apart. Maybe that's good, Jiwan said. Maybe each generation should grow up believing cooperation is normal. That way, they'll never understand why anyone would choose conflict instead. They walked together toward the memorial's central monument. It was a sculpture of the gate, rendered in polished metal with figures from different species holding it open together. Sun-Hee Choi, the researcher who had been one of the first to enter the Nexus realm, had designed it. Do you ever regret it? Hyeri asked. Not claiming the gate for humanity? Jiwan looked at the sculpture, at the figures working together, supporting each other. Never, not once. We got something better than exclusive access to knowledge. We got trust, respect, a place in the galaxy based not on power but on character. That's worth more than any technology the Forerunners could have given us. A message alert chimed on Jiwan's communicator. She checked it and smiled. It's from Kendra. She's inviting us to a ceremony on Varos. They're dedicating a new training center for Coalition peacekeepers. They want to name it after the Phoenix Rising crew. Will you go? Yeri asked. Of course. We all should go. The whole crew, everyone who was there. It'll be nice to see everyone again. As they walked toward the exit, Jiwan paused to look back at the gate sculpture one more time. The afternoon sun caught the metal, making it gleam. For a moment, it almost looked like the real thing, pulsing with inner light. She thought about the Forerunners, existing somewhere as pure consciousness, watching the civilizations they had left behind. She hoped they were pleased with what they saw. A galaxy learning to work together, species setting aside old hatreds and building something new. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still misunderstandings, still species who resisted change. But the trend was clear. The galaxy was moving toward unity, not away from it. And humanity had played a crucial role in that transformation, not by being the strongest or the smartest, but by remembering a simple lesson that older civilizations had forgotten, that the best way to hold power is to give it away, that the strongest gates are the ones left open, and that worthiness isn't measured by what you claim for yourself, but by what you share with others. Come on, Hyeri said, pulling her from her thoughts. Let's get dinner. I know a great place that serves food from 12 different species. Best fusion cuisine in the city. Jiwan laughed. Fusion cuisine. 20 years ago, most species wouldn't even eat at the same table. Now we're mixing our foods together. Progress, Yeri said with a grin. Small steps, but they add up. They left the memorial park, two old friends who had helped change the galaxy, now just enjoying a peaceful evening together. Behind them, the sculpture of the gate caught the last rays of sunlight, its metal surface gleaming like a promise. The real gate, millions of kilometers away, stood open as always. Free for anyone to enter, free for anyone to learn. A door that would never close again because humanity had made the hardest choice of all, to keep it open for everyone. And in doing so, they had proven something important. That worthiness isn't about being first or being best. It's about being willing to help everyone else succeed, even if it means giving up your own advantage. The Forerunners had waited 50,000 years for a species to understand that lesson. Humanity, the youngest members of the coalition, had finally given them their answer. Not with words, not with grand gestures, but with a simple choice to keep the door open. For everyone, forever. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, and it was enough.